Hello everyone, Michael the VTuber here speaking, and once again, I have another question for you. When I say horror games, what comes to your mind? Do you think about older horror games like Amnesia? Or maybe if you're really old, like 50, you might think about Resident Evil,
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
as it really popularized the survival horror genre. Or maybe if you're 12, you might think about Five Nights at Freddy's. Or fucking Poppy's Playtime, who knows? Whatever your answer is though, I think we can all come to the conclusion that the horror genre, at least the AAA side, has been to hell and back, with AAA games besides games like RE7, Alien Isolation, and maybe a couple others that I'm forgetting. It's gone to shit. With the recent release of the Callisto Protocol, it's kind of got me thinking, like, man, I think the horror genre is going to shit again. But with that being said, me personally, I've never been a fan of the horror genre, as many of them rely on cheap jump scares that get me every time. But recently, I've been exploring the indie horror games, more specifically the psychological horror genre. See, my favorite part about this subgenre is the lack of jump scares. As a child of the early internet, I was bombarded by the dumbass YouTube jump scares, and I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't give me PTSD. There's something about this subgenre that scares me even more than what any other genre could do. Playing Amori made me realize that I love this genre, and I knew I wanted to venture even further into this hellhole that many people love. And I'm not here to talk about Amori, but I'll cover that in the future. Today, I'm here to talk about milk inside a bag, and I will also be discussing milk outside of a bag. But to make it a little bit more simple and to prevent all of you, including myself, from having a stroke and or a brain aneurysm, I will refer to them as Milk 1 and Milk 2 respectively. I've decided to combine them both because Milk 1 can be finished with all achievements in about 20 minutes, and it's simply not worth making a video about. It would be about fucking 5 minutes. So join me as I discuss these two brilliant games in this semi-serious discussion. Milk 1 is a very simple visual novel game, and upon opening the game, you're asked to choose the language and to enter your name. I thought the game asking for your name was a pretty cool idea, although it doesn't utilize it very much besides a couple specific scenes that we'll talk about later. After entering your name, we're greeted with a very odd and pixely art style. Most of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm looking at, but let's continue. The girl is talking to herself and rehearsing her big speech, her speech being a simple question, "Hello, can I get some milk?" But she struggles saying more than 3 words before stopping. And I'm not lying when I say she is quite literally the exact opposite of XQC. We as a player start talking directly to her, guiding her through her speech, and either encouraging her or shaming her for being a weirdo. If you do the second option and make fun of her, we're greeted with a spooky little jump scare of her simply looking at us and saying, "Looks like Michael doesn't help me at all. I guess we'll try something else next time." This will unlock an achievement that I needed for the last one, and the game simply restarts. If you enter the same name as before, she'll say again. Continuing with the good ending, she seems very excited to go to the store, which is a little bit weird because she is terrified of everything. The player and the girl start having a conversation with each other where not a whole lot happens. She then stalls about how to walk and how to undo her right foot being on the grass. Although there's like no voice acting, the written dialogue, it sounds believable and it simply sounds like a normal person. It makes us the player care for her and want to help her just doing mundane tasks. But getting back on track, we enter the store and find someone, but I should probably say something because what exactly are we looking at? Like, seriously, what the hell are we looking at? It's something with 2 faces, that's all I know. And the girl tries to recite her big speech, but is interrupted by the dude saying, "Oh," where we're stuck in a loop like a shitty RPG where the NPC just says one line over and over again. The girl tells us that she has a strong fear of the letter O, and her brain imagines something terrifying to her. And thus, we get our second jump scare. And when I played this for the first time, it got me pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. And for me personally, having no stinger makes a jump scare even scary, and it just made me uncomfortable, dreading what's gonna happen next. The girl is able to break the NPC dialogue by also saying "oh," and the dude crawls away. She makes her way to the milk aisle, and upon reflection, I realized that there was no point in this whole interaction besides a cool little jump scare, but hey, more substance is always appreciated. She then grabs the bag of milk and trots over to the cashier, and I didn't know E.T. was still around and living, but it pains me to see that he's working as a cashier. But nevertheless, the girl builds up her courage and asks if she can buy some milk. E.T. is fucking pissed and yells at her, saying she already has the milk. He grabs the milk from her and scans it and waits for the money. And since the girl played as a thief role in every single RPG, she doesn't understand that she needs to pay for it. So we as a player have to tell her that. And after giving E.T. the money, we're out of the store, and all we need to do is get back home before Mom chokeslams us right out of the window. And after this complete dumbass closes her eyes and walks, she's almost struck by a bear. And, well, at least that's what she thought. It was actually a truck, and we warned her that she could have died. But she blows it off as nothing, and we reach the crosswalk. At least that's what I'm assuming, but in the cutscene in the second game, I was right. She informs us that the pills that she's taking don't work for her anymore, and that she wants to talk directly to us. Once we relocate to a bench, she confesses to us that she's becoming crazy, as if we didn't already know that. She also mentions that her medication is becoming less and less effective, and then she states that things will happen painlessly, at least she hopes, and asks if we know what she's talking about. If you haven't noticed yet, the protagonist is very self-aware, and I love how she is constantly breaking the fourth wall. Not many games do this anymore, and it's a damn shame, because when it's done correctly, we can connect even further with the character and the universe that she's in, and it can just breed a whole new layer of immersion. She tells us that she doesn't want to name her diagnosis because she wants us to see her as she is. But I have a gamer theory, a true gamer theory. She has schizophrenia, okay? That is my gamer theory, or something along those lines, because A, she talks to us when we simply don't exist, and B, well, you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the second game. And for some odd reason, all she sees is red, which explains the odd art style. And we're then shown a picture of a bunch of blotted pixels, and we're asked what we see. Spoiler, it's her dad. She explains to us that one day her dad threw himself out of a window and died. I can't imagine how high up he was, because we only see parts of her dad. And she once again starts going on a ramble, and we have to interrupt her by saying that she needs to get her ass home. Once we get to her apartment, she starts hanging over the railing before she turns around and heads to the door. And for the third and last time of this game, we get our final jump scare of her beloved mother, which, may I say, she looks fine as hell. And at this point in the game, I'm not sure if that's what she looks like or if that's what our protagonist sees her as. Her mother then asks if she brought the milk, and she also asks if her new medicine helped, with the girl saying yes to both, and we are told to immediately go to bed. Overall, from the art style to the atmosphere to the music and pretty much just to the entire game itself, I absolutely loved every second of this game. On my first playthrough, I was on the edge of my seat. I had to have friends watch me play because I was too fucking scared. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And just seeing the world as she sees it terrified me, and throughout the half hour, I was uncomfortable every second of the time. Although Milk 1 is very short, and as I've said previously, it can be completed in about 25-30 minutes with all achievements, in any other circumstance I would be disappointed, but for 99 cents and for what this game did in that 25-30 minutes, I can't complain. No one can complain about this, and I'm so happy I got to play it. So now let's move on to Milk 2. After selecting the language, of course, we can immediately tell that the budget for Milk 2 has fucking skyrocketed. Instead of one person doing all the work, there's a small team working on it, and it shows. And we are greeted with a very polished, and I admit, beautiful looking animation retelling the events of the first game, and it brings a whole new perspective to this world that our protagonist lives in. And it shows the true fear she has just buying fucking bagged milk. And the music in particular in this animation is fucking awesome. It's just like a little badass guitar riff. It was so cool. After the animation is done retelling the first game, we get to the main menu, and upon selecting new game, it picks up right where we left off as she is walking to her room. It says shadows are staring at her from every angle of the hallway. Some are even grabbing up on her face. And after she thinks there's a corpse in her kitchen, she goes to break down the door like she's Brian Urlacher or some shit. And after she confirms that there's no dead people in her kitchen, she starts making her way to her room, where we're greeted by our beloved mother. And she is pissed off. I don't know why she's pissed off, but she's mad. She's fucking mad. And mom throws herself at her in anger, grabbing her by the throat, demanding that she will never drink milk ever again, and makes her say it multiple times before she can leave. And before we get to her room, she's supposed to take her pills, but the sheer thought of it disgusts her, leaving her to one final conclusion: making her own pill. And now we can finally talk to her. It's great. We get to her room, and we spend about 99% of the rest of this game will be spent in her room. And unlike the last game being a visual novel, this one, she decides, is going to be a point and click adventure. And she lays down in her sleeping bag, attempting to go to sleep, but her mind's racing. You know, she's off fucking too much Adderall, and she manifests her thoughts into fireflies. And after she gets pissed off at them and screams, they all go away, and it is now our job to find them all for her. Before starting the game, though, we ask her what she was even thinking of when she did that, and we are bombarded with her grabbing her throat and seeing a bunch of unrecognizable images, at least from what I could tell. And it was, we see one of the most disturbing images I have ever seen, ever, playing anything. And when I played this at like 2 a.m, and I was scared shitless. I think this girl is her, because we can see the person in the image has no eyelashes, and she says that if she tears out all of her eyelashes one by one, will the itchiness go away? So, as any rational person would do, we give her some milk, and then we're shown more images before we can finally get back to her room. And she seemingly forgets about all of it, and we can now begin the actual game. And the first firefly is found at her feet, and for some reason they crawl into her ear. I don't know. That's kind of weird, but whatever. There's one down. And now, just like any other point and click adventure, we just click on shit. Just start clicking on shit until we find them all. Each object, we're given insight into her life and how she feels about certain things. And one of the objects that really stuck with me the most was her school bag. She says that she used to go to school until one day her dad drags her out of the car and tells her that she's too old for school. And she always recalls that one of the times he buys milk, and I can only assume that that was the day that her dad did a 720 no scope off of the apartment buildings, hitting an insane throwing knife trick shot as he fell. I also have a hard time believing that she actually went to school, though, because when you ask her what her favorite parts about school were, she says it was the bright lights, and more importantly, she enjoyed how soft the beds were. After collecting a couple of the fireflies, you have the option of going to bed, and what this will do is it will unlock other endings in the game that I will briefly talk about in a little bit. I got the ending where you actually collect all of them, and when you click to go to bed, we have the option to go out to her balcony to relax for a little bit. I chose this, and we go out. She makes the most bizarre comparisons about her building, and I noticed that she is, the player notices that she's terrified, and as she's looking everywhere besides looking up. And when the camera does eventually pan up, we can see the O from the first game that she's scared of. And at this point, I have no idea what the fuck's going on, to be honest with you. And we soon return back to her room where she tells us that she's going to go to bed, but she has one more favor for us before we go. As she curls up in her sleeping bag, she tells us about a time where she didn't sleep. She did like the Russian sleep experiment or some shit, I don't know. And as a result, she started seeing numbers and silhouettes everywhere she went. And this resulted in her attempting to dream, but only imagined, so she never actually slept. And after we tell her to close her eyes, we are brought back to the first game and also / the ending. In this little outro, we meet a young lad named Treska, and from my 2 million IQ analysis, this girl plays as what we were in the first game, helping Treska buy milk from the store. But unlike the player, the girl makes her own choices, and I believe that because when we failed in the first game, she tells us that we're not very helpful, and at the end of this dream, Treska tells the girl that she's not helping at all. So I think that's pretty fair to assume. And when she wakes up from her dream, she jumps up in a jolt from her sleeping bag, and she starts crying as she covers up her face. And we see the big ass O as she stares intensely at it before the game cuts to credits. And the endings in Milk 2, they vary from finding a piece of paper, which is a pizzeria number, in her dream, and she tries to order it. And another one, she's stuck in a dark room where the doors and walls move away from it, making it unable for her to escape. And there's also another one, shit, I just thought about it, where it's like a fucking mirror. I don't know, you'll be seeing a picture of it right now. And I think there are a couple others that I'm forgetting of, but they all have one thing in common. She will always wake up crying and looking up at the sky. Milk 2 improves on every single aspect. Some would even say it's the perfect fucking sequel. It giving the girl an actual character model. It helps us connect even further with her. Of course, the game is more interactable. You know, it's a fucking point and click. I'd hope so. And you know, like I said earlier, clicking each object, giving us more insight to her life and everything. I really want to help her, but let me tell you, there are no amount of therapy can save this woman. No amount of pills, no happy pills can save her. She's hopeless. And in the short span of 3 hours, give or take, I've put into both of them. I'm dedicated to these games, and I want more. Just like furry sex, I can wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone even slightly interested in the psychological horror genre. And if you found any part of this game interesting or intriguing, buy it, give it a playthrough. Both games will run you around $10, and to be honest with you, it is one of the best $10 I've ever spent. I'm excited to see what, how do you pronounce this shit? Nikita? Yeah, we'll go with Nikita, has in stores later. And he already has my money for his next project. So, in conclusion, there's a reason why both of these games are overwhelmingly positive on Steam. So just give it a shot. It deserves your money. Okay, let me tell you that. It deserves your money. It's one of the best mindfucks I've ever played. If you enjoyed this video, take your SSRIs, take your Adderalls, fucking throw them at the like or dislike button. And if you really enjoyed this video, fucking smack subscribe, and I don't know, I'll give you a Hellcat or something. A Hellcat will magically appear in your driveway. More videos coming out soon, and if there's a specific game you want to see me cover, just leave a comment, I'll be sure to read it. Thank you so much for watching, I appreciate it, and once again, Michael's out this bitch.